background and most of his peers and overcomes the pressure to fit in. Stereotypes, bias, and racism are major issues in this novel, and they can cause feelings of loneliness, jealousy, anger. Many people, regardless of their ethnic background, generally experience similar feelings, and many of you are probably able to relate to these themes. What, if anything, did you learn from this unit? You may reference examples from the novel, the articles that we read, and our movies and TV shows that we watched. Mean Girls, Dateline NBC, my kid would never do that, and the documentary about third graders in Iowa, A Class Divided. Go.
I feel that racism is still like a major problem in society, so that many people do not understand when they are like being racist. Like for example, like in Class Divided, the kids were like discriminated against like without like realizing it. Like the people with like brown eyes and people with blue eyes.
What I said I learned from this novel is that people don't always recognize when they're being racist because they think it's just funny, but that your humor may not be humorous to somebody else. And my example was on page 30 when Jin's being introduced to the class. Many people are talking about the Chinese stereotypes and everyone thought it was funny, but no one really realized that Jin was like totally embarrassed. And I said that this is an important lesson that we all should be aware of because things you say might affect somebody else and you aren't aware of it.
One thing I learned was that sometimes the grass isn't green around the other side, and you need to like be careful what you wish for. On page 223, the Monkey King is talking about how if he had known that it would have saved him 500 years of being imprisoned under a mountain of rock, he would have just come to the conclusion that being a monkey is good. So he's basically saying like, if I had just understood that being a monkey was good, none of this would have happened to me. So it's like self-acceptance and like understanding that who you are is good and you should be you.
I agree with that, and I also think that a lesson that we should all learn is to treat everybody with respect no matter who they are. And in American Born Chinese on page 137, Wang Lai Zhao, the one guy, he wasn't really good at a lot of things, but one thing he did was he helped the less fortunate, and he said that he's no more worthy of love than you to the people that he was helping. I think that's just a good lesson that we should all use throughout our everyday lives.
I agree with Jensen to just not discriminate against others. As you can see on page 31 and 32, Jin was eating his dumplings and he got made fun of for eating weird food. And then he was kind of sitting alone, so you could see that like it affected him a lot.
I learned from this unit to not judge people because of how they look, talk, color of their skin or hair, or even their personality. I'm not okay at all. It's not okay at all to get mishaps feelings. And in American Born Chinese, Danny was willing to fight his cousin because who his cousin was and how he made Danny look. Danny changed himself to fit in on page 198. That happens in real life. People change themselves to be someone they're not, to make friends or for the people they like.
Yeah, I talked about how like the main lesson was possibly like despite like your background, you're always gonna have something that you really don't like about yourself, and it's just about kind of having that self-acceptance, because that other side that like you're the fake that you want, like the fake person that you want to be might not necessarily be happy or might not do like the greater good. Like the Monkey King on page 66 when he is like really mean to like all the other like people like or like animals in the kingdom or whatever, doesn't really work out if you're not who you are supposed to be.
My example is, or what I learned from that you can't judge people by the way they look or act because everybody has their own story. And my example is from my kid would never do that. And when the girl with the headdress was performing, she was obviously the best one, and then the actor was like, she must be a terrorist. And I learned that you can't do that because it hurts their feelings really bad. And then after when they confronted the girl, she was like, I'm so happy that you didn't, or you weren't racist because I have a headdress.
one thing I learned is it's very important to, in order to understand like stereotyping and understand how racism can affect people, is just like being able to change into someone else's perspective. Like that's what was shown in like the documentary about the third graders in Iowa. They had no idea how colored people felt until they experienced something with like bandanas around their necks. And it's just important for us to be able to step into someone else's shoes in order to understand what they go through.
Going back to what Allison said, I think you do know when you are trying to be racist, because as you're saying it and you're trying to be funny with it, you know what you're saying, and then like, people laugh because it's funny. It's really not funny.
I agree with that. However, I think sometimes people say things they don't really understand are bad, and it's more out of ignorance. But like I agree, people do say things to be funny, but they're racist.
Well, and especially in like our day and age, people say things like how you're saying they don't understand it, and like sadly they became like slang terms that people use, and they just like kind of say it out of habit, and they don't really realize what they're saying. Like I don't know if you guys like the heebie-jeebies things. That means like Hebrews and Jews. Like people don't realize what that means, and they say it, and it's racist. But like, I would never say that to like on purpose. Like it'd be like an accident, and I wouldn't be doing it as a racist act, you know.
Or just don't say it at all.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is a lot of people don't realize that's what it means. Like I never knew that until like recently, you know. Like there are a lot of things in this like day and age that people say and they have no idea what it means.
Or like microaggressions, like where someone says something that I think is like an innocent question, but it's actually like kind of racist.
I learned that during the film, I forgot what it's called, but during the film where there was one customer complaining about the race of like the shop owner, how I'm saying like he's a terrorist and everything, that you can actually stick up for other people and you don't just have to like go along with it or act like it doesn't happen just to get like away from the situation.
I feel like the show with the kid would never do that. I feel like all the kids' opinions depend on how how their parents raise them. Like most of the kids that went along with like the racist comments, I feel like their parents were just like, oh, I don't know how she would act. But the kids that actually stood up, they were very confident with their children being independent and saying things to stick up for these minorities. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's just the parents, because as you saw in that film, you saw that they were obviously affected by their peers, and some of them were obviously like shaky and felt like bad about it, but they still went along with it just because of like their peers were going along with it and they wanted to fit in.
I agree with that, because it's like it's not like just like the parents, like how they like raise like their children, but it's also like when they're like around like their friends or like peers, like they get more pressured by like them than like their parents about that stuff.
We have 5 minutes.
Okay. So for me, I agree with Marie. I think that like you being able to speak out for someone or like kind of like stand for them is how your parents raised you. Just because it's like to get that courage, I feel like you would have to have like some like background in it in a way, and you'd have to have a better understanding of that situation. Like for me, my parents like made me grow up around like political situations, and they like surrounded me with that kind of stuff. So I'm aware of it. But I know a lot of people who maybe like the parents didn't like really think that like, oh, it's probably not of like the greatest importance in that life. They might not be like willing to speak up more. It kind of depends. Yeah. So I agree with that.
I feel like parents play a big part into like they should from the jump tell the kids that that's not okay to make fun of people and because of how they look or whatnot. And most people, just like in the video with the kids that was learned, the lady teacher was teaching them about different color skin and stuff like that. It was their parents' job to teach them that that's not okay. And obviously they didn't do their job.
That's true, but I also believe it's like more of a self-confidence as you get older, cause like you know that that's not okay, but it's kind of like depending over like, is that okay? Should I fit in? Should I stick out?
Yeah, I'm not saying that, you know, they dictate like your whole morals, you know, they're just starting you off and then think of these things yourself because you get more independent as an individual when you grow older.
No one has anything to say.
Like Katie Heron, she was also influenced into not being herself. Like, okay, she's from Africa, she does all this stuff, and when she started mentioning to the leader of the plastics, I forgot her name, she like tell her I'm homeschooled. She like you're homeschooled, and like didn't she understand what it is, but she like looking like, oh, I didn't know all that. Thought she was just coming from another school, but she after she realized that they seen that she was homeschooled and she from a whole different place, she realized that it was like maybe I should change, and then kind of influenced her to be somebody else.
Are we good? I mean, we can move on unless somebody wants to say something. Okay, we'll move on.